different organizations was making anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 a day, just selling 20s.
In 1979, the DEA compiled its first internal list of top 10 traffickers in all of North America. Only one African American was on that list. His name was Reginald Doc Davis of Detroit, Michigan.
The YBI, they used to bring us $1 million a week, and the ponies would bring $1 million a week. You know, that's why, and I was introduced to connect to a young lady I knew. I was introduced to some Mexicans in Mexico. His name was Frank Morales. He was federal Raleigh. He was the Mexican federal police. Durango, Culiacan and Durango.
The Davises were so big that they would mix product from Turkey, Mexico, and Thailand together by the kilos to get a special mix.
When I came back to Detroit in '79, we were working some major violators, and we kept seeing a type of heroin that had a distinctive marking that was showing up, and we did what was called in those days a signature.
We was getting stuff out of Bangkok. My brother was getting stuff out of Amsterdam, and I was getting stuff out of Pakistan, and we would take that stuff and we would mix it. Once you mix the number 4, the 97.4 pure, with the crude stuff, like the stuff out of Amsterdam and from Turkey, really, my brother was getting it from Turkey. And when you mix this stuff together, you lock the city down. Can't nobody else sell nothing until it's all gone.
And I saw a population of middle class to upward blacks. They had mansions, large homes.
A group of brothers who grew up in an actually affluent home at the very time Detroit was probably the best place in America to be black if you had the money to enjoy it.
It was 10, really 14, four half brothers and 10 biological. Well, my father, he was an intern extra decorator and he had his own contracting company. We moved here in 1963. We was a few blacks that lived here.
How many bedrooms?
It's 5 bedrooms, it's 3 levels.
Well, I probably would begin with the myth that the black community has never had economic strength, that segregation was good for us, and that we have never recovered from integration.
It was a close-knit family, but we had our uncles that was involved in the drug trade. That's who introduced us to the drug trade. At first, they didn't want us in the drug trade.
After the 1967 civil unrest and the long, slow decline of the auto industry picked up steam, Detroit became home to perhaps America's widest and most interesting and powerful menagerie of black gangsters.
My uncles inspired me because I used to see them go into Coffee Cadillac, and they used to walk in with cash, and they ride off with 3 Cadillacs. That impressed me. And then what really impressed me, when I saw him with all that money, I saw him with a pool table full of money from one end to the other, stacked high. And I couldn't understand where that money come. I was so young. And I thought money like that come from when you rob banks. And he said one day he was going to show me where that money come from, because he wanted me to go to college to be a lawyer, you know? And I couldn't understand that, like I told you yesterday. I couldn't understand that because they hadn't passed the 6th grade. But I understand it later what he was saying. He wanted me to become legitimate. He wanted me to become a professional and become a professional lawyer, and maybe that can help the family. So I had a pre-law course. Back then they had majors and minors. Okay, I was supposed to be a lawyer, but when I got to that fork in the road, instead of going to the right, I went to the left. I eventually left college. And I hid from my parents, I hid from my uncle, I hid from everybody. And I had rented a room down at 281 Erskine. I rented a room, and I started doing my own thing with another friend of mine who was my best friend, who is passed, God bless his soul. He passed. He used to use. I didn't know he used. Secretly he used, and he went to Ferris Whitby. He had a scholarship for playing golf.
So your whole social scene, your family, your friend's family wants to be like Detroit's black elite.
Yes. And I would see we had so many family members. We really didn't really hang on the block or hang with the people. We party among ourselves. And if we did go out, we would go out with, I would have maybe 10 different goons with me when I went out, you know.
And your teenage years.
Yeah, my teenage year, like, yeah, I used to go to 20 Grand sometimes to see the dramatics. I used to like the dramatics. In fact, I used to give them after parties after they performance. Because I had another place down at the Regent Square Apartments where Stevie Wonder lived downtown. And it was just a bachelor pad. And I would just have a party for them once they got through performing. It was the mixed jive days, the John I. Erskine. John Erskine was the marketplace for mixed jive. That's where everybody came. That's what Eddie Jackson was. Everybody was there. Mixed jive is a mixture of raw pea, quinine, and dolmens, and they come in a pack. And people used to come from all over Michigan to this area of John Erskine to purchase that. That was the marketplace for the users. The users would come there and they'd spend 20, but they would do this starting at early in the morning to late at night. And different organizations was making anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 a day.
Yeah, we right here on John Iron Erskine. Man, there was so many motherfucking bags up in here. I mean, a million blows. Robert Lucas, them motherfuckers out to Brewster's, the motherfuckers out to Jeffries. Everybody was right up in here. We had pink coin envelopes with China white stamped on it. That's when we first was getting the white dope out of New York. I was the first out of us YBI to come downtown. Me, Frankie D, and this dude down.
Huge amount of traffic. It was just crazy. It was just cars coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. The police might have been paid off because they wouldn't even mess with them. I mean, they even had the shooting galleries. We called shooting galleries back then, where you go and shoot the stuff. They would purchase the stuff down there. Some would shoot it down there, and some would leave and go to other suburbs. And we had it was a lot of people from all over coming. So all nationalities. 21 Earths, and I just had a room. And in that room, I had one girl staying in that room. And I used to have the customers come around to the window. And I had a guy who would my stuff was so good that I had a guy to keep them from a long line leading to that window. He would keep them at a bay, and he would get their money and bring it to the window, and the girl would slide the package through the window to them. I got supplied from the guy, my best friend, who used.
Oh.
I started off with a teaspoon.
Why did he have such a good supply?
He didn't know. Wait a minute now. He didn't have the supply. He was a user. He gave me the game. I started off with 1 teaspoon. I went with 1 teaspoon and wound up selling keys. I guess I was about 17, 18. About 17.
So you're at 18, you had 2 years of college under your belt.
Yeah, I had my social degree. I got my social degree. And
you had money from the street, and then your uncle takes you
to the connect. To his connect. It was his connect. He take him to his connect. And he introduced me to his connect. And so I spent the money I had, I spent it along with his money. And then what I did, instead of taking my money buying Cadillacs and girls and jewelry and all that, I kept putting my money back in. So eventually, I grew. Eventually, I was copping more than my uncle now. I went into the fame of having nice cars and the jewelry and hanging out. Although I used to have the Jaguars or Mercedes, and guys used to tease me and tell me that they say, "Look at Doc at that old man's car," because I was like 10 years ahead of everybody.
Oh, they were still doing the big Cadillac.
They were doing Cadillacs, deuce and quarters and all that. They didn't understand Jags, Mercedes, and all that.
So you're like 19.
I was ahead of everybody.
With the Jaguar. Doug, you said you bought a house at 17?
Yeah, I was about 18. I bought a house in Parma Woods, 1311 Belmore Drive. That was my first house I bought. I bought it for my attorney. He the one that built it, and I bought it. Zena should have a picture, boys.
Where's that? So at 18, you bought your lawyer's house in one of Detroit's most expensive neighborhoods.
Right, in Palmer Woods.
Okay, Doc, we're here in one of America's, I mean, it would be one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the entire United States, as people can see from the housing stock. We are in Detroit, and home prices are a little lower here than they should be, but this is a really important neighborhood, Palmer Woods. It has architecture from some of the most important architects of the 1920s, 50s, 70s, 80s. And this is a home that you bought
In 72.
at what age were you?
By 18.
You bought this home in one of America's, back at that time, it still would have been one of the most expensive neighborhoods in America. And when you bought your house here, this neighborhood was more expensive than Beverly Hills.
Yeah, yes, sir, it was.
Facts.
Yeah.
And
Farmland back then, Beverly Hills. I mean,
how did you,
oh, no, okay, yeah.
at the age of 18, who'd you buy this house from, and how'd you have the money to buy it? You were already hitting hard in the streets.
Right. Well, I bought it from my attorney, Samuel Barr. He was my corporate attorney, not my criminal attorney.
At the age of 18.
At the age of 18.
You were the corporate and a criminal attorney at
Yes,
18.
I did. Robert Mann was our personal criminal attorney, and Samuel Barr was our corporate attorney. They handle all our...
And you started having your first kids right not long after that.
Right. Reggie and Zena, Reggie Jr., was running for state rep now.
Reg, my cousin, your
Reg.
cousin, our cousin.
Right. He's
Your
running for
son?
state rep. He and Zena, they were both raised here.
And, you know, the elite of Detroit lived in here. Tell us about, like, who?
Sally stayed down the street.
John Sally.
Porterfield Wilson, who owned a big Ford dealership.
One of the largest black-owned car dealerships in the country.
He lived around the corner. A lot of
The Archdiocese of
Yeah.
Catholic Church.
David Ruffin had a house down the street. Some of the Motown people had homes here.
And then also the people running Ford, GM, Chrysler.
Yes, some of the executives of Ford and General Motors also stayed here.
Well, my uncles influenced him. He was influenced, should I say, by my uncle.
Did your uncle's looming presence of danger cast a umbrella of protection over you guys to some degree?
Well, yes. Yes.
Your uncles were
Their reputation is,
dangerous.
yeah,
And those were your mother's brothers.
right.
I would roll like 4 months and stop like 2 or 3 months because my stuff was so powerful till I would shut it down. Couldn't nobody do nothing until after we was out. So I wasn't a greedy guy. I never been a greedy guy. So I would I would leave and let other guys make monies.
Period of time did kind of Doc go from starting to being a big deal, like a year fast, right?
Wow, you know how hyper he is. I mean, Jesus. It didn't take him no time to, go from selling dime bags to getting, I mean, anywhere he go, as it relates to a connect, he normally is going to take over. And for some reason, they're going to like him and show him more than they'll show a normal person that they might be dealing with.
Was in Los Angeles. I interviewed an informant who gave us a description of some violent activity transpired in Detroit, and some of the intelligence that we were picking up on indicated many drug organizations operating in Detroit, and that there was a mafia operating in Detroit, what they call a black mafia.
Well, she knew the Federal Raleigh from her boyfriend, and you mentioned her boyfriend yesterday. This girl introduced me to Frank Morales, and I had my own plane. At that time, I had my own plane. I had a Cessna 441, pressurized, old seat 9. I started flying into Durango to see Frank Morales. But we would, like I told you, we would drop under the radar when it didn't sweep. Before you can make your flight plan from from Michigan or Chicago to California. And once you get to California, you drop below. So you drop below and go over, and I always go fly right into Durango and go straight to Frank Morales' home and then do my thing. Then I would bring it back here and sell it, He had a real nice house too. It's like Beverly Hills. I mean, they had the gates and the nice.
Tijuana or?
No, it was a Durango, Culiacan in Durango. And then eventually I became so big, my uncle and them started comping for me. This what I think that why they put me on the top 10 of North America. It was coming from Bangkok.
And you were moving it through Africa?
No, I was moving through Africa and Jamaica, and then sometime I get stuff directly out of Pakistan.
How are you meeting, you know?
I'm gonna tell you how I met the Thai connect. I got to think. My father taught us when we was very young fishing, and I love fishing. So I went from fishing in the river to sports fishing, fishing for marlin and sailfish and like that. So one time I was in Bahamas. Bahamas have a tournament for marlin. Whoever catch the biggest marlin win 300,000. So when I get in, I used to rent the villa. Once I rent the villa, I go to the fishing port, and I would pick a boat. And then my favorite boat was the Hatteras sports fishing boat with the tuna tower. So I would pick the boat, and so usually they take groups. I didn't want to take the group. It was like a 40, maybe it was a 40-some foot Hatteras sports fishing boat. I hired the whole boat. So when I went there, the same guy was trying to rent the boat for him and his wife, and he happened to be a Thai. So what I told him, I said, well, why don't we just share it? So me and my wife and me and him, we shared it, and so we became friends. Once we became friends,
Hey, what are you doing for a living?
right? Then that's how it started, and then he was the man in Bangkok.
Was he connected with the government probably?
Yeah, he was government connected because I think we had to have the papers. The papers I had for the importing of the rice, I think we had the government had to be involved. He was telling me.
My name, Dwayne Davis. I'm Doc Davis' brother. Doc is older than me by 2 years.
In 1979, the DEA compiled its first internal list of top 10 traffickers in all of North America. Only one African American was on that list. His name was Reginald Doc Davis of Detroit, Michigan. When the cases came down back in the mid-'80s, and 848 is the top of the food chain. You each got an 848. Organization was so large, 2 different people had 848s, right?
Well, yes, me and Doc was charged with continued criminal enterprise in the same indictment, but separate continued criminal enterprise.
And normally a kingpin is just on his own. Well, we were each at the highest level of kingpin according to the government.
Yes.
But my life is good. Pull up on your niggas like it's nothing. Yeah. Jumping out that Renault with them sticks, watch them run. It's like I'm be fucking with you, cause I'm a killer. Ain't trying to get caught up with these and they failings. 100 rounds up in that drum, get your attention. Better put some respect on my name.
Me and Doc were charged with continued criminal enterprise. We were charged separately, but in the same indictment. He was with the continued criminal enterprise as relates to the conspiracy to import, and I was charged with continued criminal enterprise as relates to distribution. As you said, we both were charged with continued criminal enterprise, so we was the leaders. So he was responsible for import. I was responsible for distribution, getting rid of it once it got to the States. Then I choose who I want to further get rid of it.
Well, but how did you decide amongst each other who was going to be out overseas sending in and who was going to be?
Well, we didn't have to come together on that. I chose because he was always out the country. So then I would just choose who I wanted to get rid of it.
You went overseas also.
Well, yes, I went over to Holland. Person over there was a basketball. Well, one was we called the general. And then we had one.
Who was the general?
He was the one who had dual citizenship. He stayed in Holland and Germany, and he stayed in the United States.
Was he Turkish?
He was Oklahoma. No, he was, the general was black. He was not. Well, his role was to abide from the Turkish. We had a Turk named was Jakob. And Jakob would come over to Amsterdam, and he would see the general. and the general would make sure it got to the United States. And how we did that is that we had a what you call candid machine. The candid machine was when we put the product in cans and we resell it. We would take them to the duty free shop where they were mixing in with other items that they brought, and then they would come back into the United States.
Was the general somebody that you guys put into place, or somebody you met?
Well, no, someone I met that was, that came over here.
So he was kind of the plug between you and the Turks at that point.
Yes.
Did he get in legal trouble?
Yes, he was indicted also.
Who was he?
They didn't indict the general. His name, is...
Well, whatever you want to say.
Well, we call it the general. He was indicted on the second trial. He had 2 trials. One trial was mistrial. And then the government chose to retry us. So when they retried us, they went over to Holland and arrested Howard and brought Howard back to the United States.
How does black guy in the late 70s become someone who's living in Amsterdam, who's a conduit between some kingpins from Detroit and some Turks? What the hell is his life story?
Well, general.
The general, yeah.
Well, the general was originally from Oklahoma.
Okay.
But he moved, I guess he was overseas in the military. And being in the military, he came across different connects over there. And one of them was the Turkish connect. And he was dealing with people here. And I had a chance to meet him through some people that he was dealing with here.
And so when did you tell us about the Oak Park incident, what year that was?
That was in 82, August of 82.
How long had you and Doc separately and together had been moving at a very high level at that point for, 10, 12 years?
Mm-hmm.
When did the particular conspiracy that ended?
Well, it ended with the controlled deliveries of a lady coming in from Chicago. And when she came in, she had the duty-free bag with the cocoa can. I think she had 2 or 3 cans? I don't recall. It was 2 or 3 cans she had. And she acted, they say she acted suspicious and nervous is the reason they stopped her.
Was she somebody that you had been using before?
Yeah, I used her before, yeah.
When did that particular conspiracy, getting it from those particular people in Amsterdam start?
That started, in 80? Was it 80? I believe it was 80 when that started.
Explain to people, at that level of the drug trade, there's you're at the top of the food chain. There's only so many people, doing things at that level. How long would a particular situation, for these 2 years we were with these guys, and, who were you dealing with before that situation? How did that end? How do you keep meeting someone, one guy goes down, how do you meet someone else?
Well, it happens. When you start, you're in that circle. If you're in that circle, you're going to meet people. People going to come at you because you got money. So people try to move product.
Was Amsterdam an entrepot for the drugs because there was so many immigrants moving there, or why Amsterdam?
Well, I'm going to tell you why Amsterdam. Amsterdam have legal houses. Other words, they have drug houses. Their drug houses are legal. What I mean by legal, if someone want to purchase some drugs, this is government set up. I'm not talking about illegal.
Yeah.
Like over in this country, they have drug houses where they can go purchase the drugs.
Oh, not large amounts though.
No, just whatever they use, the usage, and they can go to a house or go to a spot and buy it.
So why does that mean that's
That mean that the government over there was laxed. I never had a problem with the government in Holland or Europe. My problem with government here.
how long did you live in Amsterdam, or you just go back and forth?
No, we had a apartment over there. And in the apartment, we took the walls out and we redid them where there would be you looking at a wall, but behind that wall was stacks of cans.
What was your lifestyle like in 1982 when that controlled delivery was made?
It was very good. I was, of course, like my brother said, who was making large sums of money on a regular basis. So my life was good. And, I used to race and love Corvettes. And I used to race them all the time. Me and C, I brought some couple of cars from C.
Sylvester, tell us who that is.
Sylvester Murray. I brought a couple of cars from him because he was hooked up with Don Massey's Cadillac, where his nephew, his name was Tony Pepperoni or something like that. And we can go there and he'd give us the car and we'd pay him later.
Or off the books, or somehow you'd avoid the money laundering thing.
I mean, wait a minute, I'm not going to say that. I'm not sure. All I know is I can go there and pick up a car, either pay him then or pay him later.
This guy owed me some money. He owed me about 100 and some thousand, and I went by his house looking for him, and I saw he had a brand new Cadillac. And I figured that he had took some of my money and brought that brand new Cadillac. So once I saw that, I went with me and Larry went home, and we Larry strapped up, and I told Larry to stay in the car because Larry was well known as a goon, and I wanted to get into the house, So I was the nice guy, and I get in the house, and once I got in the house, the guy was not there. And I stayed in the house about an hour, and the girl was calling around looking for the guy. And in the interim, we got a rule: if we be in the house no longer than like 45 minutes, the other one come and see about you. So Larry had got out the car and came and saw. And at that time, I had got upset. I was waiting there so long. I told the girl to give me the car keys. She gave me the car keys, and she decided to after Larry walked on, let me go back up a bit because it's been a while back. Larry came up to the door looking for me because I had been in there so long. At that time, when Larry come up to the door, I had got upset. When I got upset, I told her to give me the car keys and tell the guy when he get home to come get his car keys from me so I can try to get my money. So at that time, when Larry came up, I told Larry put the house on arrest. So when Larry put the house on arrest, I'm thinking no one is in the house.
So that was a thing, like when you say you told him to put the house on arrest, that was something, y'all. That was a phrase you knew. That was like a...
That's a saying that means check all the rooms, make sure nobody else in there. He pulled his pistol. He used to carry a 44 Magnum.
So y'all did this like a military operation?
Yes.
This wasn't your first rodeo?
No, it wasn't my first rodeo. So he put the house on arrest, but it was the girl's sister was still there. And everybody was deadly scared of Larry. Larry was just terrible. But anyway, when the sister saw Larry, she shot him. When I heard the gun, out of fear, when I heard the gunshot, I knew that gunshot wasn't a 44, because when that 44 go off, it spits fire out and it's so loud. So when I saw that, I pulled my gun and I went back there looking. And when I eased back there, the girl told me, get on, get on before I shoot you too. So when she said that out of instinct, I pulled my pistol and I fired. I hit the girl, and I'm glad I didn't kill her. But I hit the girl because I had them splitting bullets. You know, we had a guy to make our bullets. We had the splitting bullet. Girl failed.
Well, you got your own bullets made.
Yeah, we had a guy to put the little nitro in them and put BBs. And my gun was different than Larry's gun. Larry's gun knock you down with that 44. So, but the girl failed. So after the girl failed, I went around the corner, took my bulletproof vest off, and took the gun. The gun I shot with it. I put it at the end of the sofa, and I called 911. And when 911 came, when 911 came, they came into the house. The girl jumped up with blood all over, jumped up and said, he tried to kill me. He tried to kill me. The police threw down on me. They threw down on me and said, where the gun? And they arrested me, on it.
And what happened with that case?
So with that case, Inspector Hill was
Gil Hill.
Gil Hill was the inspector of homicide. He looked over. He came to the bullpen where I was, and he looked over and he said, "Well, I see your family on the other side now." But after I talked to Mann and told him what happened.
That's your attorney.
My attorney, Robert Mann, told him what happened. He said, "Well, if Mr. Davis is telling the truth about what happened, and we're gonna call that self-defense. But his story got to jail. That girl got to say exactly the same thing that man was telling Gilbert Hill."
Technically, I mean, you guys were kidnapping them, in the sense, if you go over there to collect a debt, if you pull out a gun and say, no one leave till so-and-so gets here, I mean, that's kidnapping.
It is. But anyway, I got out of that. Thank God I got out of that situation.
But it's interesting. I mean, you had the thinking on your feet and the morals to, even though you out over there get some money, street activities, the girl pulled out, you shot her, your cousin was already dead.
Right, he was dead already, but I wasn't leaving him.
911.
I wasn't leaving my cousin.
For both of them.
Yeah, I wasn't leaving my cousin.
You called 911 for both of them.
But yes, I did.
Knowing that,
I get arrested.
Yep.
And everybody thought I was stupid for doing it. I said, no, that's the thing to do. I waited there when 911 came, and I got arrested, and thank God I got out of it.
So the difference, people mistake criminals and outlaws for gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
A gangster is gangster.
Some have some compassion.
And gangsters are part of society.
Right.
They make up their own laws.
Right.
And create their own world, sometimes where the government is weak.
That's right. And we had our own little rules for everything. One rule was, if I'd been in the house 45 minutes without calling him, he would come see-bomb me. And if it was a girl, if I had a girl with me, if someone come to the car and tell the girl to come into the house, she's supposed to take off and go get help.
And
that was one of our rules that we was taught by my uncle now. The streets are the codes of the streets. We used to pick up about $1 million. From
Seal.
From Seal or wherever he designate one of my people to go get the money.
So Seal alone.
But this time I was going to see Seal about that and maybe some other business. And it just so happened I was going to pick up the money that day.
If you're from Detroit, I'm sure you're familiar with Young Boys Incorporated, YBI, and another group from that same era, Pony Down. Now, Pony Down and YBI were made out by the newspapers and street gossip to be at odds with each other, which they were at the street level, but when you find out more, the story's a little different. Turns out both groups were working out of the same bag, as they say most of the time, and most of that time, that same bag was from the Davis brothers. Now, here's a quick story about that one time when Doc Davis went down to the Jeffersonian Apartments to pick up about $700,000 from Sylvester Seal Murray, main supplier to YBI, who himself was considered to be perhaps the largest H dealer in the entire Midwest by federal law enforcement, as at the time they didn't even know of Davis Brothers' work.
And the only person I knew was Seal of the YBI. I didn't know Butch Jones, all the underlings. I didn't know them at all. And one day, just one day, I was going by the Jeffersonian. He had a apartment in the Jeffersonian. It was a high rise, very nice apartment building on Jefferson near downtown Detroit. And as I was going up the elevator, I sensed, and my gut felt.
When you say very nice, this is where maybe a high-ranking Ford executive.
Right, lawyers, judges, and all that would be it was
It was the place.
it was the place, the Jeffersonian.
And he was on one of the top floors.
He was on one of the top floors. Yes, he was. And I was going up there to pick up some money.
How much money?
Maybe I think it was about $700,000, if my memory don't fail me. I think it was about $700,000.
And how often would you pick up those volumes of money from someone like Seal? Once a week?
But once a week, we used to, like I said, we used to pick up about $1 million
From Seal.
from Seal or wherever he designate one of my people to go get the money.
So Seal alone.
But this time I was going to see Seal about that and maybe some other business. And it just so happened I was going to pick up the money that day. And just so happened it was a raid taking in place. They just missed me being there, sitting there in there for maybe seconds.
You were really the guy.
Right, right. That was the man then.
The Jeffersonian raid didn't result in Seal Murray's arrest just yet. Seal wasn't in the apartment. Perhaps he had the same bad feeling Doc did. Seal's associate was seen jumping from balcony to balcony on the 27th level, and I guess he was taken into custody. And in that guy's apartment, there was about a half a pound of H found that was 71% purity, and the DEA chemist at the time testified that out of 500 samples he had processed in his career, less than 20 had been that strong. And that's what was in Seal's apartment. Presumably he got it from Doc Davis. Now there was about $800,000 in cash seized from Seal's apartment and the other guy's apartment at the time, and the DEA said, circa 1982 when this happened, that was the largest cash seizure they had ever made.
Yeah, it was in the news. It was in the news. I don't know how much money was in the apartment, but I know at least that 700 was in there because I was coming by there to pick that up. So I don't know what he had in there, but my gut feeling said something was wrong, and I just turned around and went back down the elevator and went on and escaped.
So if the feds are doing this big raid, or the Joint Task Force are doing this big raid, they must have had a bunch of people around. It wasn't suspicious that you get out of a car, go up, go down. Didn't they track you? So you weren't on the radar. They didn't know.
No, I wasn't on the radar then.
They didn't know you were Seal Supply.
Right, they didn't know I was Seal Supply. And the Jefferson is a very large apartment building. It was a big high rise. I mean, they would have to have agents all around. And I would slip right past them because they would have thought I was just a young kid. So I missed that. Yeah, I missed that.
Kurt McGirt was alleged to be a 16-year-old hitman for one of the Davis's customers, the infamous YBI, Young Boys Incorporated drug ring. What age did you get involved with YBI, and how did that happen?
Probably about 13, 14.
And how did somebody approach you? Or?
Well, he seen me out here doing other things, and he said, look, man, that ain't it. Come and go with me.
Before the first indictment of Young Boys, Detroit was second only to New York for the consumption of heroin. And they literally took over. That was the precursor for street sales in the United States. It originated here in Detroit.
7 o'clock on a warm evening in March, and you are riding in a caravan of unmarked police cars about to raid what they call a major distribution outlet of heroin in the Brewster housing project. Police tell me some of the heroin would be sold to other drug dealers in the project, and some would be given to kids to sell on the street. The place, police say, is a suspected dope house in the Young Boys Incorporated network.
Well, my father, he was an intern extra decorator and he had his own contracting company. We moved here in 1963. We was a few blacks that lived here.
How many bedrooms?
It's 5 bedrooms, it's 3 levels, it's 3 kitchens.
Oh, did YBI go and take over corners, or were you just
No,
mixed
we
in
didn't.
with?
You don't take over corners. You don't do that. You don't. It's like taking over something. That's not what a person do. That's not what we did. You know, we don't do that.
Okay, we're here on the corner of Selden and Gibson, and back circa 1980, 81 or so, in the wintertime like we are now, there were 22 shootings in just a period of about 2 weeks, just right on this intersection. And why was that? Well, today there's new developments around here. This has all gone up. New casino down the street, but this was the infamous Jeffries public housing project. Been torn down and replaced. But back then, it was one of Detroit's most valuable drug properties, and YBI and Pony Down and others were shooting each other over who got to sell. They were shooting customers if they bought from the wrong people, and Doc Davis and his brothers were supplying both Pony Down and YBI.
Arrest 16 people all at one time over in the Jeffries projects. 15 minutes after we take them downtown, there's another 25 or 30 runners out there dealing dope. That doesn't sound like we're winning to me.
And one of those that was shot was one of my cousins, Larry Revels, was shot in the phone booth right over here, about a block over. He got shot here with a shotgun, but he lived. Beefing with some of the guys in the Jeffrey projects.
What was Larry doing? Was he selling?
No, Larry was one of my goons. And he you know, he was looking for somebody that owed money over in this area, and they caught him. They got him before he got to them, and he shot him up with a shotgun in the phone booth while he was on the phone talking to me.
Now, you were never convicted in any of your cases of any violence.
No, absolutely not.
But, and we're going to practice the fine art of saying less, but to maneuver in the streets of America's most dangerous cities, let's just say the Davis family could be very dangerous if need be.
That's right. This is one of the second strongholds for the drugs during that time, besides John I. Erskine and Dexter and other places that the YBI and the Pony was involved in.
How much a day would come out of just a place like this?
About the same thing, about 100,000 a day with all the different groups that would be down here.
You know, just come and post up like anybody else.
And you wouldn't be the only guys out on the lot.
No, we wouldn't be the only ones out here posted up.
And it was what, best bag wins? The customers bought what they wanted?
No. Yeah, pretty much.
Whoever had the best drugs ruled. And we were supplying YBI and Pony. Yeah, well, we would mix the stuff out of Amsterdam, which is number 3, the stuff out of Bangkok, which is number 4. You know,
number 4 means more highly refined.
Number 4 is the best it comes. It's 97.4 pure number 4. You call it number 4. It comes from the Golden Triangle. Then you got number 3 that comes from Turkey and Pakistan and them areas around there, which is more crude.
2 in the afternoon at Woodrow Wilson and Cortlandt on Detroit's west side. Watch the teenager in the blue jacket as he approaches the car, throws a signal by holding up 2 fingers, and finally waves the car in. A moment later, a second youngster approaches the car and apparently makes a delivery. The car drives away, and the teenager in the blue jacket passes the money he's received to the runner who made the delivery.
We would mix the 2, and once you mix your 2, you'll have something with a strong hit, which would be the number 3, and the high and the whole would be number 4. So once you had that, you would lock the city down. See, a lot of guys didn't have the capacity to go overseas and get dope like from Amsterdam, Turkey through Amsterdam and Bangkok, and they didn't have the connections like that. It wasn't too many that had connections. I had in 4 different parts. There were 4 continents. 1 key of the number 3, 1 key of the number 4, mix it together, and then we would give 1 key to a week to the Ponies and 1 key a week to the YBI.
What would this block a bit look like on a day like this back in '82? Full of young guys or?
No, just every day. everyday thing that's going on, you know. Guys be talking about how they run to cars. We've been running to cars.
Now we're at Joy Road in Petoskey, another well-known center of heroin trafficking back on the west side, and this time it's high noon. Young people and teenagers are out on the streets stopping cars, apparently making sales right under our nose, and hollering out what police say are brand names of heroin, like Whipcracker.
So let me ask you this. At the time YVI and Pony Down were going and all this violence was going on, you had young children, and did you ever think about, at the same time you had young kids are on these corners selling drugs, how does someone at your level at that time of the drug game reconcile those things? Is it something you don't think about, or what?
No, at that time, I wouldn't focus on that, and I regret that because I wouldn't want my children to be strung out on drugs.
Or selling them.
Or selling them. That's why I kept them from that. And I'm not proud of that. It's something that you know, I really regret.
At the time.
But at the time, I was so consumed in the lifestyle and the money, I didn't think about the psychological part and the part where it would affect how it affected people, how it affected young people.
My position, if it was whatever I had to play at that time.
Could have been,
you know what I mean?
Up and dropping off.
It could have been picking up, dropping off, standing on the block, kicking your ass. You know what I mean? It could have been all different types of things, you know. But it wasn't no lieutenants, captains, wrecking crew, or none of that.
So there was nobody, you know, per se you reported to?
No.
Nobody was in charge of you?
No, we was basically, I ain't gonna say in charge, I say our loyalty, you know, that was what really misled a lot of us.
And who is it that you guys were all loyal to? Different people?
We'll talk about that later.
They found a new wrinkle. When I say they, I'm talking about the bad guys. They found a new wrinkle. They found a way to use the system to beat the system.
Yeah, they was on about $1 million a week.
Each?
Yeah, each. So that's about $2 million a week. So you can just, from them numbers, you can tell they was doing most of the dope.
$10 at a time.
$10 bags. Bundles, they call them bundles.
Last year, 1981, police in Detroit say they arrested about 1,000 youngsters under 17 for drug offenses.
Let me get this, man. It's not a recruit thing. We don't do no recruit. We didn't do no recruit. It's just like every other neighborhood. Everybody knew each other. And, you know, if you was out in the streets, then you chose to get out there.
Where did the idea that there was recruiting and all that, is that just a myth or who?
I don't know where they got it from, you know? I don't know where they got it from.
I've copped dope from kids as young as 8, 9 years old off of Dwayne and Dexter.
And there was plenty of adults willing to give somebody some packs to push.
Some had their own bag and some didn't. You know, some of the older guys worked for the younger guys. Some of the younger guys worked for the older guys.
Did you ever buy for yourself? Did you ever buy heroin?
No, nope.
So, Kurt McGirt, who was legally a child during the crimes that sent him to prison were allegedly committed, was punished as if he were a hardcore gangster.
I never thought I was going to jail.
Because you weren't really doing anything you thought that was
I never thought I was going to jail.
Think about this. Kurt, who never even bought his own heroin, did 30 years in prison, while the Davis brothers, who were two of the main suppliers to not only Detroit, but America's streets in general, ended up doing only about 11 years in prison.
Well, selling drugs was just an everyday thing for me to put some money in my pocket. That's basically what it was. And then it became a habit.
Were you overseeing spot? Like, did you have your own?
Sometimes I have to oversee certain things and sometimes I don't. It's a lot of rumors, like I say. We got a bad name for a lot of things that, you know, we really didn't do.
I got 4 or 5 houses in the suburbs. I got every kind of car that you can imagine, you know. So now at this time, I'm really looking at like the government.
Butch Jones, who was probably the most famous young boy of all, was one of the conduits from the suppliers to the streets. and he got a relatively short plea bargain agreement in the first YBI indictment.
But the parts where they get to talking about lieutenants and captains, that only can come from one person. Which is, hey man, we'll talk about it later on.
As you can see from the photos of the Davis's family home and from the Davis family itself, they were already far away from poverty and violence when Doc and his brothers decided to get into the game. So what does it all mean? I will leave you with Mr. Davis's own thoughts on the subject.
The irony of all this, you see a guy that come up from a family that's
upper middle class,
and they go into the street life. It's kind of, it's kind of
weird.
It's kind of disturbing, yeah.
Kind of disturbing, it is. Yeah. Other than like, a gun and a Sylvester and the people that were getting stuff from you, the people standing on the corner or even the middlemen, they would have seen you in the store. They would have known who you were, right? Did people know who you were?
No, I didn't hang out like that. We always stayed to ourselves and party. Like my brother said, we'd party among ourselves.
Among the family?
Among the family, absolutely. That's ourselves. We'll hang like that. We didn't go out and hang in bars, you know what I mean, or go to a lot of events that would be with the public. Well, the government called us a close-knit family, because we did everything privately together, And we didn't go outside that circle.
And that kept you safe probably for a long time.
Well, it did keep us safe.
What sort of, Detroit, before then, during then, and now is every year number 1, number 3, number 2, murder rate. Were you guys sort of, you're in the suburbs, what was the danger level that you feel like for you personally and your families?
Well, we didn't have a problem with feeling, threatened or any problems like that, you see, because our uncles really set the trend as it relates to identifying us, who we were and was at that time. People wouldn't come at us like that. We did have one incident now.
Which was that?
Well, I got kidnapped.
Tell us about that.
Well, a person made an order.
How much?
It was a lot. So I delivered the order myself. Usually don't, because I had a female working with me who usually do my
This is the person you had been dealing with?
What this is, I don't want to say the name.
What was the person you'd been dealing with?
No.
Oh.
But it was a person who was indirectly, I knew.
He was somebody in the streets or whatever.
No, it was somebody indirectly that I knew that was related in the family.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Through marriage, like that. So.
What year was this?
I can't.
Roughly 79, 80 or something.
It had to be about 78, 79, somewhere up in there, I believe. Yeah, around there. About 78, 79, yes.
And tell us what happened.
Well, I made the delivery.
Where at?
It's North End. It was North End.
You're bringing what? A couple thousand grams to the North End?
Yeah.
And North End now is at the edge of kind of the gentrification, and that's still not nice, was not as bad. But at that time, that would have been one of the most dangerous, probably, neighborhoods in America.
Well, yeah, a lot of them was dangerous. I had no problem going in them or slipping in them and slip out.
Why wouldn't you have a guy like that come meet you at a hotel in Southfield or just somewhere a little more? Or that was everyday business, going to drop off?
No. Remember, I had my other people. I had a female who would do most of my deliveries and pick up from YBI and Pony. But again, this is a person who is indirectly connected to the family.
So you feel it's zero risk.
So, yeah. And the way, they betrayed themselves and how they were sounding, I was lax. And that's what cost me.
What's the mechanics of what happened that day? Like what?
Well, I went to make the delivery, as I said, and waiting on the money. I hand over what the order was, and it was a stick up. And they say no, we want more. So they wanted me to call and make a bigger purchase.
Oh, to ask for more to be.
Ask for more to be sent. And so,
What doc you had to call, or just wherever the stash was?
no, I had to call. Who did I call? Because Doc was out of town. I believe it was my uncle.
Oh, so they were still.
They still was around. And, you know, I was the wrong person to call. So he brought wherever the order was. And that's how I was able to be released. Because they came full, what they did, they came full force and
You got released.
and I got released. They released me.
And this isn't an incident that law enforcement ever knew about.
No, we never got hit. We never got involved with them. We took care of our own business. You know, they used to try to beat us there or try to catch us, but they never could.
We used to pick up about a meal, about $1 million
From Seal.
from Seal or wherever he designate one of my people to go get the money.
So Seal alone.
But this time I was going to see Seal about that and maybe some other business. And just so happened I was going to pick up the money that day.
If you're from Detroit, I'm sure you're familiar with Young Boys Incorporated, YBI, and another group from that same era, Pony Down. Now, Pony Down and YBI were made out by the newspapers and street gossip to be at odds with each other, which they were at the street level, but when you find out more, the story's a little different. Turns out both groups were working out of the same bag, as they say most of the time, and most of that time, that same bag was from the Davis brothers. Now, here's a quick story about that one time when Doc Davis went down to the Jeffersonian apartments to pick up about $700,000 from Sylvester Seal Murray, main supplier to YBI, who himself was considered to be perhaps the largest H dealer in the entire Midwest by federal law enforcement, as at the time they didn't even know of Davis brothers' work.
And the only person I knew was Seal or the YBI. I didn't know Butch Jones, all the underlings. I didn't know them at all. And just one day, I was going by the Jeffersonian. He had a apartment in the Jeffersonian. It was a high-rise, very nice apartment building on Jefferson near downtown Detroit. And as I was going up the elevator, I sensed, and my gut felt.
When you say very nice, this is where maybe a high-ranking Ford executive,
Right, lawyers, judges, and all that would be. It was
the place.
It was the place, the Jeffersonian.
And he was on one of the top floors.
He was on one of the top floors. Yes, he was. And I was going up there to pick up some money.
How much money?
Maybe I think it was about $700,000, if my memory don't fail me. I think it was about $700,000.
And how often would you pick up those volumes of money from someone like Seal? Once a week?
Well, once a week we used to, like I said, we used to pick up about a meal, about $1 million
From Seal.
From Seal or wherever he designate one of my people to go get the money.
So Seal alone.
But this time I was going to see Seal about that and maybe some other business. And just so happened I was going to pick up the money that day. And just so happened it was a raid taking in place. They just missed me being there, sitting there in there for maybe seconds.
You were really the guy.
Right, right. That was the man then.
The Jeffersonian raid didn't result in Seal Murray's arrest just yet. Seal wasn't in the apartment. Perhaps he had the same bad feeling Doc did. Seal's associate was seen jumping from balcony to balcony on the 27th level, and I guess he was taken into custody. And in that guy's apartment, there was about a half a pound of H found, that was 71% purity, and the DEA chemist at the time testified that out of 500 samples he had processed in his career, less than 20 had been that strong. And that's what was in Seal's apartment. Presumably he got it from Doc Davis. Now there was about $800,000 in cash seized from Seal's apartment and the other guy's apartment at the time, and the DEA said, you know, circa 1982 when this happened, that was the largest cash seizure they had ever made.
Yeah, it was in the news. It was in the news. I don't know how much money was in the apartment, but I know at least that 700 was in there because I was coming by there to pick that up. So I don't know what he had in there, you know, but my gut feeling said something was wrong, and I just turned around and went back down the elevator and went on and escaped.
So if the feds are doing this big raid, or the Joint Task Force are doing this big raid, they must have had a bunch of people around. It wasn't suspicious that you get out of a car, go up, go down. Didn't they track you? So you weren't on the radar. They didn't know.
No, I wasn't on the radar then.
They didn't know you were Seal Supply.
Right, they didn't know I was Seal Supply. And the Jefferson is a very large apartment building. It was a big high rise. I mean, they would have to have agents all around. And I would slip right past them because they would have thought I was just a young kid. So I missed. Yeah, I missed that raid, and I'm glad.
Several other raids followed that one. Two of them on Tracy Street near 7 Mile northwest of Detroit. One of those raids got $600,000 in cash, and yet that didn't stop Seal's operation. It didn't stop the Davises. It sure didn't stop YBI. And that gives truth to the old saying in the street, there's no business like blow business. Because if you're getting H from overseas and you're stepping on it and putting it on the street, but the profits margin is so astronomical, you can lose $500,000 here, $1 million there, $300,000 there. Doesn't matter. Just get some more. Markup is so vast. What does it feel like to see something that, like, oh shit, that was meant for me, on the front page of the paper? Is that a weird, the next day, like,
you feel good. You feel good because you have to worry about having to pay lawyers, go to jail, and be caught with a large sum of money. So it's a good feeling. It's like a natural high. It's a good feeling.
Were you fearful in those initial days of Seal or whoever saying, oh, that was Reggie's dope, or no?
No. He wouldn't do that because if he had did that, he would have got cut off. But he wouldn't have did it anyway. Seal wouldn't have did anything like that anyway, because the quality of dope that he was getting from us, it was better than the Dago's dope. I mean, I imagine he was getting dope from other people, but the best dope he was getting it from the Davis family.
And tell us about this. Your operation was able to take those type of lickings and keep on ticking without missing a beat?
Just because the price I was paying for it in Bangkok,
which was
$3,500 a pound, and then it went up.
Tell us about the 500 gram thing. For if anybody was talking about they were getting kilos,
they lying, because the Thais don't deal in kilos. They only deal in pounds, no matter how many you get. But they deal with the different measuring system, the metric system. They deal, instead of 448, they deal 500. And back then, it was spoons instead of weight. And the 97.4 heroine is so light, you get 360 quarter spoons in 1 kilo. So a person like Seal or a person like Gunn could take 1 kilo and make a meal. But if he gets something that's heavier, which is less quarters, like 200 and some quarters, they only can make about 700,000. But the stuff that they was getting from us would mixed up the stuff, they had more quarter spoons. It was 360 quarter spoons in 1 kilo of it.
Let me break the math down. So a kilo is costing you roughly
pounds.
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay, you can say it like that for.
So it's 7,500 plus 7,500. It's costing you about 15,000.
Right.
There's certain expenses involved in getting it.
Right. Because I was saying I would get about 10 women send them on a tour to an island. I would send them on a tour to an island, and then they would rent a villa, and all of them be together.
And
then
the Bahamas?
In the Bahamas, or
So you'd have to go from Thailand to the Bahamas.
Thailand to the Bahamas, or to Thailand to Jamaica, or Thailand to Ghana.
So then you have a group of churchy-looking sort of
Older women, right.
Going on a tour.
That's unfortunately, that's how my mom unfortunately got tied up in it, because I called her down one time to
Did she know what was going on?
I doubt if she knew. She might have had some inkling.
There's something wrong, not specifically what.
But she, I was down there too on vacation, and so I called her down, and that's how she got caught up in that case in Miami, Florida.
Running a game on her to a degree too.
Right, maybe. I was just one that her company had missed her, that hadn't seen in a while, and she came down and got caught up in something she shouldn't have got caught up in, and they wind up charging her. And that's that case that with the helper beat. That's the case that Sheldon helper and beat. That was one of the big cases that we beat. And they used to walk in with cash, and they ride off with 3 Cadillacs. That impressed me. And then what really impressed me, when I saw them with all that money, I saw them with a pool table full of money from one end to the other, stacked high. And I couldn't understand where that money come. I was so young. She knew the federal rally from her boyfriend. And you mentioned her boyfriend yesterday. This girl introduced me to Frank Morales, and I had my own plane. At that time, I had my own plane. I had a set.
My father was labeled one of the top 10 heroin dealers in North America back in the 70s and 80s. And he provided a great life for myself, my sibling, my sister, my mother, his siblings. There was 10 of them, 5 boys, 5 girls, his parents.
I ain't got no violence in my record, none at all. Not saying I'm not a dangerous guy, but they was saying, but anyway.
Reginald Doc Davis's children are very successful in their own right legally. The most high profile is his son, prominent radio personality, Reg Davis, aka my cousin, your cousin, our cousin from FM 98. I'm sure most of the people in Detroit know who he is, and right now he's a fast-rising politician, having turned the drive and determination his father and uncles used to become kings of kings in the street game to empower his own family and Detroit's black population through politics instead of trafficking.
In the 70s, we all had houses, condos, apartments out in California, and he would pay all of the bills. And I think it was something like, in the 70s now, it was like $40,000 a month or something like that was his overhead. He bought his mother a $5 million mansion in Beverly Hills from a white actress. A beautiful mansion that we go on the weekends. We go over to my grandmother's house and go swimming and go in the back and pick cherries up the hill in back of her mansion. And me and my mom, my sister lived on Rising Glen Road off Sunset, next door to Richard Pryor and his first wife. And we had a swimming pool in the front yard. I taught myself how to swim in an 8-foot pool.
At this time, we was all living in California. I had a manufacturing company in California. We damn near had a house on every hill out there.
And we had a limousine driver named John, a bald-headed white man with Malcolm X glasses. He had a white limousine that should take us, drive us to school every morning. Kim Fields from The Facts of Life and everything, she was a grade ahead of me. We had a ranch. My dad had cows, chickens, and my sister and I had our own ponies. We used to ride them bareback. I had a red one, my sister had a black one. It was a great life. My dad purchased a home in Detroit in Palmer Woods, the most affluent neighborhood to this day.
I was about 18. I bought a house in Palmer Woods, 1311 Belmore Drive. That was my first house I bought. I bought it for my attorney. He the one that built it, and I bought it. Zena should have a picture of it.
Wait a second. So at 18, you bought your lawyer's house in one of Detroit's most expensive neighborhoods.
Right, in Palmer Woods.
And we lived in that house for many years. I grew up in that house as well. And so we had a great lifestyle thanks to my dad and the things that he bought for us. But that was his life. But I thank God to this day that I had that dream at age 7, which put me in front of a microphone, uplifting people and affecting positive change in Detroit. And that became a quest for me to make a career out of, you know what I mean? So that to me is a beautiful thing, man. You know, on Facebook and I guess all of them, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Reg Davis. You can find me there. Or you can go Google and put Reg Davis and you got like 10 pages of stuff on me. But what I like you to do is, you guys already go YouTube, put Ceasefire Youth Initiative up top. Ceasefire Youth Initiative on YouTube. It's a lot of stuff, videos from over the past 15 years of our work in the community.
Someone told the agents here that I frequently comes to the Ann Arbor area and meet my kids around Christmas. And so what they did was they circulated my picture to all the major hotels there. And they say, when this guy show up, call us. And the busboy, who I used to give $1,000 to, I used to give him $1,000 every time he took the luggage for Christmas. He is the one that called him.
Not a lot of unique things in the world of crime, but Young Boys Incorporated and their rival, Pony Down, are a unique phenomenon in American crime history.
In Detroit, big money in the pockets of small boys has the attention of federal investigators. The New York Times reported today that authorities are trying to crack drug rings, paying the boys thousands of dollars to work as runners, distributing heroin to addicts. One 11-year-old was arrested with $2,000 in his pockets. And one auto dealer said a 15-year-old bought a Mercedes-Benz recently.
Rise of the teenage drug kingpin in urban America. Before crack cocaine was ever heard of, Young Boys Incorporated and Pony Down were infamous for using kids, 11, 12-year-olds, as runners.
And he started buying dope from Young Boys Incorporated.
I've copped dope from kids as young as 8, 9 years old off of D.E.A. and Dexter.
The kids work in teams, one collecting the money, another delivering the dope, others acting as lookouts, and all are decoys for one another. And when a lookout throws a signal, a busy street can become deserted in a matter of seconds. That way, a cruising police officer sees nothing.
You know, Murray Hill and Santa Mara is where we took everybody to a hotel right there once we figured on what we was going to do. We actually started on Ward Street, and it was me and my older brother figuring out. When my older brother came home in the 70s, we said that we wanted to give some money. You know, I was selling weed at the time, and my brother, he took my weed money and put it invested into other stuff. You know what I mean?
The Davis brothers were supplying both of them at the same time. Pony Down and Young Boys Incorporated.
The YBI, they was in competition with the Pony Down. They used to bring us $1 million a week, and the ponies would bring $1 million a week.
Pony Down, no one's ever really talked from Pony Down. There's not really pictures of them floating around much. There's just a few newspaper articles. But Doc Davis made some calls, and we're gonna call her Miss Pony, who is a female relative of the Pony Down founders.
Hi, my name is or my brothers were the Pony Downs.
LB, one of the Pony Down lieutenants, he called in from prison where he's serving time for another charge.
It's all in the area because, see, one of them you'll call Finkel, which they would, back in the day, we would call FMK, Finkel Mopping Killers. And the other one, which you said Cinema would be Pony Down Bronx, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yep. But that was a nicer area than like Dexter or 12th Street, right?
Absolutely, that's what he's trying to say. It was a nice area. Yes, we grew up as middle class. Well, my parents were middle class.
What sorts of jobs did they have?
Well, my father was a laborer, and my mother.
Like at the plant?
Yes.
She was an auto engineer.
Yes.
So he was a high-paid laborer.
Yes, he was. And my mother only worked a couple of part-time jobs from what I can remember. And then she just stopped working and just took care of the family 100%. But what I remember is that anybody who was hungry, my family would always feed them. We would always have neighborhood friends at our home.
When it started, when did it start to feel like your brothers were, like, where is this money coming from?
I graduated out of high school and I received a brand new Camaro, a red Camaro. I was the president of my graduating class.
What high school?
It was Cooley. And when after the ceremony and I came outside and I saw this brand new red car, I'm like, I knew it was mine. So I'm like, give me the keys.
And then in college, you said you got another graduation.
I received a Mercedes, a 450 SEL.
For?
A graduation gift from college.
And what'd you major in?
BSBA in accounting finance.
YBI, the only difference, YBI start, at least from what I can recall, they started earlier, and this whole concept of using two things that people didn't use before, which was young kids that were juveniles and taxi cabs to do the drug deals because you can't forfeit taxi cabs, although I think they actually did.
Was Pony Down, what was the level of sophistication of them and the size versus YBI?
Pretty close to the same to me. I'd say, they had a lot of guys. I mean, I'd say for 3 or 4 years, I didn't do much that wasn't somehow affiliated with them. Somebody'd get stopped for a pistol, somebody'd get stopped with some drugs, and a lot of the other lawyers that worked around me, they were pretty active. Let's put it that way. They were very active. They're tough guys. They can take it when they go to jail. The real crooks. They know that's part of it. They know you got to pay lawyers' fees. They know you got to pay bonds. They don't whine and complain. They know they did it. You get them a great deal, or if you have a tribal case and you win it, they're appreciative. They don't, as far as I could see, they don't go straight after it's done.
Yeah, it was good or bad, but we came from Dexter. We come from Dexter's Joy Road.
Oh, so you're from the same general area that the YBI guys are from?
I don't give a fuck about you and that in the jury, your punk ass car, none of that. Nigga, I'm from Dexter. I'm YB and I.
That's where we all come from, that area over there. But in the strip, in '69, we moved to a better area.
Pony Down kind of formed as a response to Young Boys Incorporated. Young Boys Incorporated was very aggressive, taking over street corners.
When they had disputes, because remember, it's 300-400 ponies and it's 300-400 YBI, and they go to clubs together and they fight and they have problems and they have problems with women. They be messing with each other's women and different stuff.
Well, I know something about that though. After you turn them corner down, I see how the y'all kept security in the club and stuff. I know I went to the club. I might pull outside the back and see them and stuff. I never went in there with her because I already knew it was going to be some confusion.
Oh, so you guys really couldn't even go out that much, or it was because it just caused too much of a frenzy?
We would call a meeting and we resolve that. We would say, look, it's about money. It ain't about this, all this ego and pride and
Did you feel like one of the most powerful or important people in the city of Detroit?
At that time.
At that time.
Yeah, I felt the power.
Was feeling powerful the real high at that level for you guys?
Yes.
There was, I guess, it was called best bag wins. So multiple heroin dealers would have their product on the same street corner, and whatever brand the drug user wanted to buy, he could. But YBI put a stop to that in parts of Detroit. You had to go. And because you were a family unit, and YBI suffered from all that infighting and what Butch Jones was doing to everybody and etc., you guys were a tighter unit. So would you say, and Mr. Davis, would you say, having interacted with both parties, that Pony Down might have been more
Organized.
and disciplined
They
and
was more disciplined and organized.
than YBI.
Right, and they would then YBI. Really, the buckets.
We treated all our people like we was all brothers. If one of our brothers had a problem, all of our brothers had a problem.
Peter Gunn, who was the guy that Doc Davis and Dwayne supplied, he recently died. So what was your relationship with Gary Davis?
The Davis family.
Well, actually, the Davis brother was almost like a part of my family to me. You understand? We come up, we was like really tight. You know, that was my man though.
What age did you meet them at?
Ooh, I was a young kid. It's probably about, I was probably just beginning to be 20 years old then.
And you're a little bit younger than Gary?
Yeah, I'm a little bit younger than Gary and Dwayne. I'm a little bit younger than both of them.
Did you feel that they were like, I guess looking back now, you would say, gee, you led me down the wrong path, but at the time everyone was doing it. Do you think if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be alive or you wouldn't have had the life you led? Hard to say.
No, because it was a family. It was a family affair. You know, doing that family affair activity, he met Dwayne. So
it was already
like
going on.
He was a mentor.
Okay.
So the answer would be no.
And when did they be?
When I met Doc was like a big brother to me, youngster. I respected Doc. Youngster, he was a good dude.
This is just a little piece of the story of Pony Down. It's too complicated for me to say this is the story. This is just one small chapter of their story, and Pony Down is one small piece of the puzzle of the Davis family story.
I had a ladies and a man's indie drink called VIP Premium. And I was fortunate enough to get T.E.A. interested in it.
You know, you were pretty ahead to be thinking of.
I always was ahead. I was always 10 years ahead of everybody. Just forget about it.
All I smoke is that good shit. All my niggas is hood rich, count up this check while I puff on this wood. I'm living reckless, but my life is good, girl.
Pull up on your knees like it's nothing. Yeah. Jumping out that Renault with them sticks, watch them run.
Maybe 400,000-500,000 to get it going, because you remember now, I had one of Red Bull's research chemists called Gary. He lived in Austria. So when we run a production, we would have to send for Gary to come over to follow that from the process all the way to the putting it on the truck. He had to make sure it was all quality control. It was made with all organic ingredients, and we had one for women, and we were the first one to have one for women and men.
Different ingredients.
With organic ingredients, a lot of organic ingredients. Well, we started off, I guess, all together, we may start off with about 500,000. Our goal was not to really own the energy drink. We wanted to build it up. Get a celebrity or somebody to endorse it. Like we had T.I. T.I. was going to endorse it.
T.I. signed on.
He didn't really sign the paper yet. He was getting ready to sign it. And if you look at some of T.I.'s old shows, you'll see the VIP Premium drink on some of his old shows.
He was the hottest guy smoking.
Yeah, he was the hottest guy back then. And we approached P. Diddy too, but he gave us the runaround. But
and you had a business partner in Atlanta.
Right, it was like 5 or 6 of us in Atlanta. It was based out of Atlanta. You know, but fortunately we got our energy drink in some of the Walgreens stores in Chicago. It was just getting ready to get into the Walmart. We was getting ready to meet the black administrator that handles all the new products and stuff. But that didn't happen.
So you're $500,000 deep. You got T.I.
Right.
And what happens?
Well, another one of my associates that was in the business drink, he had a rapper called Alley Boy. Alley Boy and T.I. was beefing. When T.I. found out Alley Boy was involved with the energy drink, he pulled out. So we lost it.
Wow.
We lost that endorsement. And we wanted that endorsement so we can be able to sell it later on to Pepsi, to one of the big corporations, because they got the major distribution in all 134 developed nations.
So that would have put you in.
I would have been, right. We could have got $1 billion. I mean, what did 50 Cent and Shaq and all them get for the internet?
Were they?
This is after that.
Okay.
Because they got
right around.
Because they got about $1 billion and some for the Vital Water. You know, they built it up and then they sold it to one of the big boys like Pepsi or, you know.
How did you
Puffy too, but he was gave me the runaround, gave us the runaround.
Why do you think
So,
that was?
I don't know. Didn't have time for me. I don't know. He was trying to do his own thing, but he wasn't real accepted to helping. You know, I guess a lot of celebrities like that. They just, if it ain't white in the deuce, they just, and I encourage you through my story. I hope I encourage a lot of the young guys to go in a different direction. When I get out, I had a different mindset. I was real keen on it in black empowerment, and and I got into a few businesses, and
you had to scuffle to.
I had to scuffle a little bit. I had some people when I first got out. They tried to help me out, and then I started a little small, and then I built myself up.
But you certainly had to be careful to stay away from any shady characters.
Right, and I had to be careful and mindful of being around, because people, places, and things is very important. And choices, timing, and attitude is very important. Always, I'm very keen on that too. So I had to stay clear of a lot of, so I wouldn't be triggered, that wouldn't trigger me to get back into, what I was in. Hey, we downtown Detroit at 541 East Leonard.
And what's the significance of this?
It's very significant. This was my baby. Okay, this place was going to be a 5-star Cajun restaurant. I had contacted Patrick Moe of New Orleans. I gave him $30,000 to come up here to train the kitchen staff and come up with a menu.
So you really had it in motion.
Yes, I had it in motion.
What was it called?
It was called La Toussaint.
So it was named after Toussaint Louverture,
Toussaint Louverture,
the Haitian who led the Africans to rebel
against the French.
Yep.
And they won. They got their independence.
And in return, also, the United States blockaded Haiti, and that's why it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere right now.
Right. And also, from this location, I was going to celebrate Detroit's birthday. I was going to have the first Mardi Gras like New Orleans. We was going to have a Mardi Gras. We were going to go from here to the city county building to celebrate Detroit's birth by Cadillac. Absolutely. I put up $4 million worth of property for a $2 million loan. $800,000.
What happened
during that time? It was the real estate bubble. The Lehman Brothers fell.
The Great Recession.
General Motors went bankrupt.
Well, till we bailed them out.
Right.
They didn't bail you out.
No, the small businessman got the bad shape.
Talk about in the 70s, like what percentage of businesses downtown or just in Detroit were black owned, and is it the same now?
Not many. That's why I was so proud when I stood in the same spot. Look at that 14,000 square feet building downtown Detroit. I was going to pay $800,000 for the building. $1.2 million was the first phase of the construction. And I never got the loan. They kept bullshitting me, floating my loan, instead of the banks telling me we're not loaning money anymore. We're in a depression. They didn't tell us, the small businessman, that. And we suffered.
Well, that's a pretty amazing vision. And unfortunately, it got derailed by events outside of your control.
See, this is what they did. The banks did not tell when we was in that, they say a serious recession, but I think it was the depression.
So you might have been a gangster, but they were banksters.
They was banksters, right. They bailed out the big guys like General Motors, Lehman Brothers, stock market, but the small businessman, they just they kept us hanging. I was very Afrocentric and trying to build up black commerce. You know what I'm talking about? Especially
in an 85% black city.
Right, absolutely. The government didn't bail us out. The banks didn't bail us out. They kept. My frustration is I would have been the few black entrepreneurs that own a prime real estate downtown Detroit, a 14,000 square feet building. And it would have generated me at least 10, 15 million a year. We was gonna celebrate Detroit's birth, like I told you earlier. The birth of Detroit with a Mardi Gras from here all the way to the city county building. I would have made maybe a meal that weekend with the vendors, with the food, with the everything.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of times they'll roll these drug dealers out and say he could have been a CEO, but
Yeah.
in your case,
Yeah.
you could have been a CEO.
Absolutely. I could have been whatever I wanted to be.
Pull up and we swerve and got her staring like you too late. She asked her for some coney, had to take the root Chris. Teach her something.
All I smoke is
as the guy who really was the apex predator of that whole world.
Right.
And has now moved on and is doing sophisticated things, must have mixed emotions about the legacy of Detroit's black underworld on black America.
Well, I wish more of the BMFs and the different other organizations had to do more for black empowerment. And they could have, but if they had a network around the right people, I think. And that money, if they all had came together with that money and changed their mindset and got away from the street life and went into the empowerment and went to in black businesses, I think that would have been a good thing.
Did you know, what were the biggest amounts of money that you heard of people in your line of work in your era accumulating? And you don't have to say their name, but
man,
like that you knew was true for sure.
Millions, lots of.
10, you ever heard somebody having 10 million?
10 million. 10 million or more. It was Detroit at one time. The dealers in Detroit generated so much money. It was just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. And if you combine all of them that was making money in Detroit, you
where'd all that money? Where'd all that money go?
Right, where did all that money go? That's right.
Why does Detroit look like this? In Miami, it looks like how it looks.
Because they didn't take the money and put it back into the communities. If they did send some of that money, and for example, they got an area called Cass Quarter. If they took their money and bought up most all the property in Cass Quarter, like some of them did do, like Dodo, like Blair, they did buy a lot of property, but Dodo wound up getting killed.
I know who that is.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Because he had the lounge, CC Lounge.
Yep.
That was stopping Co-America from being built.
The Illiches. But, you know, I was talking to some other people about that and the conspiracy theory of Illich, and some other people told me that, and like you're saying, Dodo was a long time street guy, even though people didn't know his name in the paper, but you guys knew who he was, and there's no telling what he was involved in. It doesn't mean Illich killed him.
No, it don't. But I noticed once something happened to Dodo, the property went to his wife, and then something happened to his wife.
Oh, what happened to his wife?
I don't know.
Of course, if somebody wants to kill the family, she died or got killed?
She got killed.
Oh. No, are you thinking of the Fine Arts Theater?
But then something happened in the Fine Arts.
3 owners in a row got killed.
Right, 3 owners in a row got killed. So I don't know. You know.
So, we were talking about how the government loves money and plea agreements.
Everybody like to win. The Internal Revenue like to win. The DEA like to win. The prosecutor everybody like to win. So if you put money to the side, to like 10 million or more.
And tell us about
10 million or more.
We're talking about Quasan Lewis, and you and him shared a lawyer, Steve Fishman. What did Quasan Lewis do out of Detroit?
Quasan turned in about 18
million.
About 18 million.
And he got 18 years.
And he got 18 years.
And he's coming out.
Life.
He's out.
And listen, instead of life.
And he's out.
You can always get some more money. Now, if he hadn't turned in more money and pleaded guilty, and everybody won, he would have wound up probably doing 30 years to life.
But he had 18 million to turn in.
But he had 18 million to turn in, and he knew you can always get some more money.
Can't get no more time. Can't get no more life. I mean.
Yeah, right. So that was he was smart. He was smart. And that's how most of them. That's how most of them big Colombians do too. They, especially the ones that help build up Miami. You know, they're turning, they give up their property, they give up money.
And go home.
No, they disappear first, you can't find. And their lawyer call and say, look, if I bring my client in, and if he give you X amount of dollars, if he give you 20, 30 million, plead guilty, everybody wins. Everybody wins. Internal Revenue wins, the DEA wins, everybody wins.
Even the gangster.
Even the gangster, because he don't get but 10 years where he would have got life.